I should turn on my mic. All right, well, hopefully you got all that, because my mic wasn't on. All right, so thank you everybody for joining. I'm going to now open the floor up for public comment. Public comment may include any comments relating to tonight's agenda items. Commenters must state your name and whether you are a resident of the township or a non-resident taxpayer in the township. If you do not identify yourself, your comments will not be included in the official minutes. Do we have any public comment before we begin? Okay, thank you. We get the. Just remember to turn the mic on. Green light should come on.
It's on. Okay. My name is John Auerbach. I'm a resident and taxpayer and former Franklin Township supervisor. My comments are based on my 45 years of living in Franklin Township and being responsible for road maintenance over my 10-year service as a supervisor. To avoid any lengthy anxiety, I'll provide my recommendation first, then follow up with some supporting history about Old Schoolhouse Road. The recommendation, I strongly recommend that the board consider applying the double yellow striped center line to the newly constructed road for the purposes of fundamental traffic safety. Just a little bit of history. I recall sometime in 2015, the board decided to double stripe paved roads ongoing from that decision point. It may have been accomplished by resolution, I'm not sure. During my 10 years as a supervisor, it became apparent that speeding, disregard for traffic signs, general reckless driving were common occurrences on Old Schoolhouse Road. All the residents and other road users expressed frustration with these conditions and requested some remedy from Franklin Township, and that was in October 2015. After a significant study in conjunction with counsel from various traffic engineers, LTL and LTAP, was decided to install 4 speed tables on Old Schoolhouse Road. The objective was to create a reduction in traffic speed sufficient to cause drivers to avoid Old Schoolhouse Road shortcut and use State Road 841 through Chesterville. Since the tested time differential was only 22 seconds, this was the shortcut versus the long way around, it was expected that a minor inconvenience created by the speed tables would be enough to cause drivers to avoid the shortcut. Jeff Eastburn diligently tested the travel time differential, employing numerous tests in both directions, and established the average time differential noted. Unfortunately, the project project objective was not achieved, as drivers seemed determined to use the shortcut and develop driving techniques that mitigated the effect of the speed tables. There were not particularly strong obstructions, and people learned how to drive over them really fast. Additionally, we installed a stop sign at Pheasant Hill Lane. The objective of this traffic control device was to facilitate safer entry onto Old Schoolhouse Road due to very poor sight distance to the right side. Secondary benefit was speed control. The board and staff were disappointed at the speed control failure, and as a result, I previously recommended that the tables be removed from this year's reconstruction plan. I'm pleased with the lane width and drainage and surface improvements, as they will improve traffic safety. My only concern is that speeding and other bad behaviors could increase. Road striping will be the best and only available countermeasure we have. I was going to recommend fog strips, but I drove it tonight and it's too narrow, way too narrow. I followed a trailer over there, just a utility trailer, and realized how narrow the road was in some spots. So they won't work there, but the center line would be perfect. Just one other quick comment related to pedestrians and bicycles. I cannot think of a more dangerous road than Old Schoolhouse Road for this activity. Franklin Township should discourage these activities. I think that's really, I have a few other comments, but that's really the gist of it. So double stripes would be my recommendation. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, John. Appreciate your comments. Okay. Any other public comment before we move to our agenda items? Okay, not hearing any. Donna?
Thank you, Dave. So I would like to make a motion that the board approve the June 5th, 2023 Board of Supervisor workshop minutes. Have a second for that, please?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, the motion carries 4-0. And then we have one more set of meeting minutes. I make a motion that the board approve the June 21st, 2023 Board of Supervisor meeting minutes. Could I have a second for that?
I'll second.
Okay, good, Jim. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries 4-0. Thank you. Oh, wait a second. I have one more thing to do. So we have to make a correction to the June 21st, 2023 zoning report. The number of the permits granted in May were 3, not 32. I think at the meeting we said 32. So we're going to, that typo has been corrected in the minutes. So I just wanted to make sure folks know that. We said 32 at the meeting. We corrected in the minutes that it was 3. Okay, thank you.
Donna, you're gonna take Dawn's.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Thank you. All right, so one more. So I want to introduce David Payne, the Avon Grove Library Director. Hi, David. And Dawn wishes she was here. She's loving what we're doing in the park. So I have a question for you at the end, but I just want to say congratulations. You're getting great participation, and we're just really thankful what you're doing for the Franklin Township residents, particularly the kids.
Hi, everyone. This is Shelley McCloy. I'm the Franklin Township representative on the Avon Grove Library Board. And I'm also here to proudly present to you David Payne as the new Avon Grove Library Director. And like you said, he's been doing great things. And I just wanted to introduce his report to you.
Thank you very much, and good evening, everybody. I'm very pleased to be here. I've been in this position for about 3 months now. I came from the City of Baltimore Public Libraries. I've been in public libraries about 30 years, so pretty much all my working life, and really enjoying it so far. It's perhaps fair to say that in the past 2 years, we, as a library, haven't been able to do as much as we would have liked, not having a permanent director for some time and not helped by the pandemic, but we're making up for that now. And just a bit about what we're doing right now, what we plan to do. Right now, we're in the midst of summer reading, our busiest time of year. We've had so far to date about 320 individuals of all ages who've signed up for summer reading. And that's actually past our entire number for last summer. As we've heard, we've been out and about, and we've had a wonderful time at Crossan Park through the month of June. Unfortunately, the weather caused by the wildfires in Canada defeated us on 2 of those weeks. But the 2 weeks we were able to be on site, we had a wonderful time, and we had a combined turnout of 60 people, adults and children, who came out to those story times. So looking forward to coming back there. Some of the things that we are planning to do in the future, before the end of the year and when school starts, we are starting a new story time, especially for children who are on the autism spectrum, sensory story times. We are hoping to start a series of writing workshops for teenagers. We are planning, starting in September, a series of financial literacy workshops in partnership with the Association of Financial Educators that will cover such things as basic financial planning, understanding credit, planning for retirement, and so on. We also were awarded a grant by AT&T and the Public Library Association to host a series of basic computer trainings. So we'll be doing basic trainings on things like email, accessing email, accessing internet on your phone, basic computer technology, and so forth. And we also will be at the Franklin Town Fall Festival. So we're very much looking forward to that. And also, as you've heard, I had the opportunity to talk with Supervisor Dowling at one of the story times at Crossan Park, and I know that, as I'm sure you all are, she's very passionate about the development of the park and particularly the gardens. And, one of the things we talked about is how the library can support that in terms of gardening workshops and trainings and so on. So one of the things we're very much looking into and very interested in doing. So with that, I thank you very much for your support. If you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them. Thank you very much.
David, thank you and welcome aboard. It sounds like a lot of interesting things coming aboard. Maybe a lot of these are your ideas from a 30-year history. And are there other things that you might say intermediate term, 3 to 5 year plan that you would like to see that maybe a Baltimore library system has done that you think could be done in our libraries, or things that we're just generally lacking other than some of the things you just mentioned?
I think there's a lot. I mean, I think obviously Baltimore is, a different kind of setup there. But I think generally in the public library world now, the emphasis is as much on public space, meeting space, as books. And so, although we are a very small facility, and we share it, of course, with the West Grove Borough, I would like to do what we can to make our facility in whatever way one where people can have study space, meeting space, and so on. I think in terms of programs, again, one of the things that is particularly prevalent now in public libraries and urban areas are things like programs such as having social workers in the library, healthcare in the library, nurses doing simple blood pressure checks, and so on and so forth. So that kind of thing, I think, is something we can definitely jump into, and I would like to see. So I think really there's a lot we really want to get our teeth into without overdoing it. We should be doing a lot more with our Spanish-speaking community. And so that's one area. But I think my goal is to have something for everybody. And so I think in that respect, in having a consistent level of story times for younger children, partnering with groups such as the Garage Youth Center in Avondale to hold robust programming for teenagers. And then I think also, again, a diverse series of workshops, programs for adults. I think that's very important.
David, do you have the opportunities for like high school students to help volunteer?
We do.
Okay.
We do. We have actually every week now on a Thursday afternoon, we have a dedicated time for students to come in, and they can earn hours that they may need, credit hours for helping us with projects, such as program preparation, and so on and so forth. We need a lot of that. And so, yes, every Thursday at 3:30 every week.
So David, I want to ask my Dawn question. I hope I get it right. But as you know, and you said it, she's passionate about what's going on with the library and in the park. And just, are you guys planning to come back?
Yeah.
So will you be back in August or this summer? I guess it should be more focused to my question.
I believe we are due back at the end of the summer.
Okay.
I can't recall exactly. I think we go all the way down to September, October, but I do believe we are coming back.
So and then she wants to know who is her contact? Will it be you, or is there someone else that she needs to contact?
For the story time in the park, that would be Lisa Sherwood, who's our youth services manager.
Sure. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I usually, when someone from the library comes and talks here, I always ask the same question, which is, how can we help you better execute and do the things that you want to do? We have obviously a board member already, Don Dowling, who is very passionate about working with the library and using, but we have resources, we have parks, we've got Facebook pages, we have a website, we have all these things that can help do community outreach. I'm not expecting an answer now, but we have, we're pretty passionate about supporting the library and have been. So anything that you would like to entertain, Jeff and Stacy and Melissa are here to certainly help you. But if there is anything that you think you could suggest to us now that says, hey, this is something that we'd really like to do. And
I can't think of one specific thing. I think, as you said, I think what's very important is just being connected. One of the things that really all public libraries, in common with many, organizations, is post-pandemic is connecting with people. It's true that people in the pandemic found other ways to do things and other things to do, and doesn't make us less relevant. But we are competing with other things for people's interests. And so it's very important for us to get the word out about what we're doing. And so I welcome anything you can do to help us with that. That'd be great.
any other comments?
Okay. At this time, I'd like to introduce.
So thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much for coming and speaking with us.
Thank you very much.
As always, we appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Nice meeting. So now I'd like to introduce Guy Swift from the Avondale Fire Department.
Oh, you want us? Yeah, you can just sit right down.
All right, thanks for having me. I meant to be here last month and we ended up having a couple of calls, but anyway, I'm here to provide you with a 6-month report on what's been going on at the Avondale Fire Company. Total for the 6 months is 233 fire calls. Fire prevention is still working very good in Franklin Township because we only had 2 calls. And both of them were gas leaks of natural gas or LP. So, like I say, things are working pretty good that way as far as that. EMS wise, we had 816 calls. Excuse me. 8 of them is in Franklin Township. We are still running the wheels off the ambulance, going to Christiana 307 times, Chester County 158. AI DuPont 23, Wilmington 3, Riddle 3, Paoli 1, St. Francis 2, and Union down in Maryland twice. So looks like our busiest day is on Thursday of the 6-month report with 135 calls. There was 531 of them on day shift and 285 on night shift.
So did you say Thursdays are your busiest days?
Yeah, I can change tomorrow. So I mean, that's
kind of wild. Okay.
But, that's kind of that, and I can provide that copy. Another thing I typed up just to give you an idea of what the volunteers have been doing is for the first 6 months of the year, like I say, we run 233 fire calls, 816 EMS calls, which is mainly our career staff. There is we actually have 7 volunteers now that are certified, including myself, that we went through a class where after 45 years, I'm now dropped ambulance again. So if there's a second call in the district, like I took one the other day to Bowling Green Inn, the guy come in, he's like, we got a second call, I drove the ambulance. So we're, getting it out. Training, we had 1,624 hours of training with a total of 363 members attending. We're still trying to do, duty crews from 6 at night till 10 at night. Monday night, we have duty crew. We call it the old timers. And there's actually anywhere from 10 to 12 of us there. So with the duty crews / fire calls, there's 20,088 hours for a total of 3,032 members. Work details, we had 597 hours with 133 members attending. Meeting hours, which includes township meetings, board of directors, officers meetings, what have you. 756 members for 281 hours. We did 48 hours worth of fundraising with 12 members. So with that said, total for the first quarter, we're at 23,113 hours with 3,821. I'm sorry. Yeah, 3,821 total personnel. So, and things that we've got completed, I know I've talked to you guys about this before. We had a floor project which we got a grant for to redo our epoxy floor because we had the exhaust system was in the floor that started being a tripping hazard. That was $116,500 paid fully in a grant, and that job is actually complete. It looks very good. We're very happy with it. Company by the name of Engine Bay Floors did the work. We applied for a grant because we had 2 wooden sheds out back that were in dire need of repair. And we built a 22 by 50 by 12-foot high pole barn for $15,800, and that grant comes from the State Fire Commissioner's office. And that's when we were moving stuff out of the firehouse to find out that to move stuff out to do the floor, we found out the career staff never told me the washer was leaking, that they washed the laundry in for the towels and bed linens and what have you. So I went to Lowe's and cut a deal with them for a washer and dryer. They gave it to us for $965. And I happened to run into Charles Wilkers of Protectivate and said something to him about it. And I got a check about 2 days later in the mail for $1,000 for the washer and dryer. Then we had our tanker. The chief engineer came to me and said, we need new tires for the tanker. I said, which ones? He says, all 10. I was like, okay. So that was $5,800. So I went to Billy McGovern, Manfredi Cold Storage, and Mike Hopkins, and they ended up donating all 10 tires. So, and then we did get our first payment. We put in for that ARPA grant to help offset the cost of EMS. We asked for $180,000, which was a dream, but we did get $94,000. So we did get our first installment of that of $45,275. I'm sorry, it was $90,401.50. So, yeah, I have informed Tina, our administrative assistant, which she does a wonderful job. I said, if you think it's worth your time to fill out a grant, even if it's for $500, do it. So we're trying our darndest to, keep beating down the bushes that way and getting stuff. We actually have 2 grants pending right now. One's for a new security system. We're waiting to hear back for that. And the other one is for some equipment for the apparatus. So like I said, we're still waiting to hear back from that. But like I said, I'd like to thank you guys for your continual support. I'm working with Jeff and Stacy on hopefully going to do some cooking for you for your fall fest. But there's no other questions. I'll submit this to you and
Thank you, Guy, for your update. I have just a couple of general questions, and if you're not prepared to answer them, it's completely fine. But when we heard about the closure of Jennersville Hospital, all of the EMS groups and fire departments came to us to say, we're going to need a lot more money. There's going to be a huge impact on us. Do you have any thoughts on how that's impacted you over the last year or so that Jennersville's been down? And then I guess a follow-up question is, now that it's been sold, do you have any updated information on when they might reopen the emergency room there?
Let me see if I got that paperwork. I can tell you that one of the impacts that we see is our average call right now is 1.5 hours.
Wow, that's a lot.
From
Okay.
dispatch to returning the station and going back available.
And that's up from.
That's up from 45-minute turnaround going to Jennersville.
You're going twice as
Probably
much.
twice as much. Excuse me. We, considering our location, I mean, we'll take the patients wherever they request, as long as it's within reason.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as the medic or one of the EMTs say, hey, we can't do that because you're really having a heart attack, so we got to go to here now.
Mm-hmm.
But we find that our turnaround at Christiana is a lot quicker than Chester County.
Okay.
There's been times where our ambulances sat there at Chester County waiting on load because there was no beds available.
Yes, I guess that was another follow-up was I know that there used to be a parking lot full of ambulances waiting to drop patients off.
It's gotten better because they actually did put like 10 more beds in.
Okay.
And they do a good job trying to move them in and out, but with Brandywine closing and all the, and no disrespect, but a lot of the psych patients are going to Chester County now. I mean, there was one time there was 18 beds full of psych patients.
Mm.
So we had 12 beds left for true emergencies, not that, that's not.
No, I understand what you're saying.
But, as far as Jennersville, the last update I heard, they're still saying 2024.
Okay.
And I still hear that they're going to do the ER,
Mhm.
imaging lab, and the 10 beds on the west wing. Because the state of Pennsylvania, you can't have a standalone walk-in at a hospital facility. So they have to have beds available in case they have to stay overnight.
Oh, right. Okay.
So
So that
that's-
should at least
yeah.
bring your time
That,
down. a
that
little bit.
should for some calls, but there again, if somebody's, if the medic's on board and they hook the EKG up to you and you're having a true emergency with a heart attack, chances are we're going to still be feed to Christiana or Chester County, because you're going to end up getting transferred out of there. So if it warrants, we're going to still, until they can really get up and running and be a true firsthand hospital, that's kind of where we're at. As far as I know, last year, I think you guys gave us $19,000. And then when I come and presented the budget this year, I had my true numbers and I was honest with everybody and our numbers dropped to 13,400 or 500. Yeah, that's what we got, and I'll be true with the numbers again. If the numbers are there, that's what it'll be. I'm not here to break the bank, or I'm just here to do the right thing for the people. So, but
I just want to congratulate you too. Also, all the great work you're doing with the grants. I mean, that's amazing.
we, knock on wood, we have probably this year alone, we got the mushroom grant too. That went towards the mushroom grant. What we did with all of our equipment is we installed Knox box security devices in all of our apparatus, because I'm assistant fire marshal at New Garden Township, and we started pushing the issue about getting Knox boxes on businesses. Knox boxes where we have the key that can unlock a box that will let us get into your facility. So God forbid, we don't have to break the door down our window. And New Garden's backed us up and actually passed the ordinance where they're supporting that. But the feedback we were getting from the people were, well, how do I know my key's secured? So now we have a box in each apparatus where, like myself, I have my own code and I push the code and I can take the key out. Then I have to push my code to put it back in. If that key don't get returned, the fire chief can go and say, well, Guy, you're the last one had it out. What'd you do with the key? So it's checks and balances on both sides for everybody. And they, like I said, we're asking somebody to give us a key that goes into Lowe's that has $1 million worth of inventory. They want to know that just Joe Schmo's not picking up the key and going in there. So yeah, that's what that grant went for that too. I forgot about that. So yeah, we got a grant for the Mushroom Fest for that. But
All right. Thank you again. Appreciate your comments and coming in. All right. What do we have next? Oh, Stefan.
Thanks, Guy.
Good night. Good night.
Yeah.
Jeff, let me know when you need anything.
Next, I want to introduce Melissa Ortega to give our June treasurer's report. Melissa?
Hi, guys. So the June 2023 treasurer's report includes the following disbursements.
Melissa, can you hear us?
Yeah. Can you not hear me? I'm here. Hello?
I can hear you, Melissa.
Do you guys hear me? Hello?
I'm
Can you
on
hear
Zoom.
me?
I'm on Zoom and I can hear you, Melissa.
I don't think they can hear you in the Zoom.
Nobody else?
Us back to the.
Well, that's weird.
Hello.
Hello?
You might want to send.
Can you
Jeff
guys
a
hear me?
text. You might want to text.
Hello? Hello?
Okay. Melissa, if you can hear me, I'm just going to go ahead and read it. This comprehensive monthly report of the Franklin Township financials for the month of June 2023 and year to date. The June 2023's Treasury report includes the following disbursements. The general fund with disbursements and transfers of $85,041.85. Park and Recreation Fund with disbursements of $10,168.44. The Open Space Fund with disbursements of $5,608.46. Excuse me. The Capital Reserve Fund with disbursements of $500. The Emergency Services Fund with disbursements of $73,160.01. The Fire Hydrant Fund with disbursements of $580.80, leaving a balance in all funds totaling $2,745,153.12. I make a motion that the board approve the June 2023 Treasury report as presented by Stefan Torres.
Okay, I'll second it.
Okay, seconded by David. Any discussion?
No.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carries 4-0.
Okay. All right, thank you, Stefan. Okay, so the next is the update on our road program. Jeff, can you start us off?
I certainly can. Hopefully, everybody can hear me. As of the week of July 17th, I am happy to report that all of our paving is finished and it's complete.
Fantastic.
I would say this year is the first year the township has received as many compliments as we have. The most recent one from Marvin Paisley on New London Road. He lives on Pheasant Hill Lane. He was saying coming out at the intersection now, there's so much more additional sight distance and really likes the job that was done. Other positives that we heard are from the Browns on Old Schoolhouse Road and Mr. Brock and Mr. Lee on Ways Run. We do have a couple of other minor things to complete where we have to do some filling along the edge of the road, but we want to let the asphalt cure for 4 or 5 weeks before we start turning trucks on it. So some of that work will be on Ways Run. Other will be on Old Schoolhouse Road, definitely. I didn't know if the board, I know what I wanted to let you know too. I'd put it in an update to the board, but we had a patch, I would say approximately 4 feet wide by 60 feet long on Flint Hill Road. That was just, it was turning to dust. It just made sense while Long was in town to have them mill that section out and do it. So
Well, I was gonna say, what cost? Do you have a cost for that?
my understanding is, and don't hold me to it, Donna, around $1,500 to $1,800. The other news is I've now spoken with both of the residents on the one on Mackey Court, Mr. Higginson, and now I've been able to connect with Mr. I just lost his name because my phone keeps going off. On Franklin Road regarding the easement agreements. Both of them have read it. Both of them agree. It's one that you and Vince Pompo developed. So my goal is to get with the gentleman on Franklin Road, get them both to sign it. We can get the survey work done and then work on that project this year as well. So that will be a big positive, I feel. Long time in coming. Mr. Higginson's been very, very patient. So I do appreciate his patience. Other than that, just to talk briefly about it, I'm sure Andrew will have a lot to say about MS4. What we need to gear up for is that storm infiltration pit in Thompson Estates and then in Southview Estates. I did speak with Andrew again today about that, provided him some maps. It's going to be beneficial for Andrew and Ron to speak with each other to see how many credits we can actually get for that, if we can use the MS, if we can use that money. The last topic, and Chuck can correct me here, I call them our ad hoc pedestrian and trail transportation committee. I don't know if an official name was ever developed or not for that. One of the discussion items was that there were a member or two who would like to see us not line stripe Old Schoolhouse Road. Chuck Phillips is here tonight, and I'll let him explain that. But at the end of the day, I would encourage the board to allow me to use line striping, the double lines on Old Schoolhouse Road. I think it's an important safety feature. Because of Chuck's question or thoughts, I should say, it made me reach out to, didn't make me, I did it. Reached out to the Avondale State Police Barracks. I reached out to LTAP and Ron, and we all think collectively that those double lines are a traffic calming measure. It doesn't make people drive faster. And one thing I've learned at night, as my eyes have gotten worse, I certainly find the line striping to be helpful. So I know Chuck has other views, and I want to give him a chance to talk. He was very passionate about this.
You can just go, oh yeah, you can go
Right.
right there. Yeah, so that's probably the better one.
Okay. So it's the opinion of the ad hoc committee 3-2 that Old Schoolhouse Road should be treated as a low-speed development road. Everything should be done to discourage it from being used as a shortcut. The double yellow line down the middle signals that the road is a through road. Both ends of the road are dangerous. I think everybody kind of knows that, but on the one side, we have Pennox Bridge, which is almost right on top of it. And on the other side, we have a two-lane, a one-lane bridge almost immediately at the intersection. So both of those make it a really important point that this is not used as a shortcut. Now, I don't think anybody wants that to be the case. The question comes down to, what do we do? The people that live on the road should be able to walk after dinner, get their mail without having to jump out of the way just because somebody decides they want to use it as a shortcut. So that's, I think everybody kind of agrees on that subject. We presented some information from, it came from London. Not a lot of these studies happened, but in London, they took 5 roads that they repaved. The roads were previously had stripes down the middle. They repaved them, and before they put new stripes in, they monitored the speed. So they monitored the speed before the new paving. They monitored the speed after the new paving. And what they found out was that the speed dropped, even though it was brand new paving, which normally accounts for an increase in speed. The speed decreased because of the signaling that occurs as soon as you put that double stripe line down the middle. It appears to be a through road as opposed to a local road. So we are at the very least recommending that we really think hard before we put double stripe lines down the middle of that. Our fear is that it will encourage shortcut traffic, and that it'll signal to people that aren't even familiar with that road that it is a through road, as opposed to a development road wouldn't have a line. Not sure whether it goes through. So all of a sudden we're encouraging people on both ends to kind of say, oh, you know, the tractor in front of me is going slow. I want to go this way. So we're encouraging people that may not even know that they can use that as a shortcut to use it as a shortcut. So that's our opinion, 3-2. That's all I had. Well, I do have a solution, but that's my personal solution.
I'd like to hear your solution,
Okay.
because I don't know what, let's hear the solution.
So I sent, and I did a bunch of pictures, but I sent a video. I don't know, did everybody get to see the video? So a lot of places in Europe use this. There's several places in the US that use it also. And what they do is they do not put a center stripe line down. What they do is they put dash yellow lines on the sides, approximately 5 feet in. The purpose of that is to further alert people that there are pedestrians, bikers, etc. in the area. There was a lot of concern that it's not a common usage. And I would agree with that. However, it's becoming more and more common. The video that I sent around, I just happened to be virtual riding, and it was in Switzerland. And I looked down and realized between sweating, hey, this is actually what we've been talking about all along. So I didn't go to seek it or anything like that. It just pops up. So I'm pretty confident that it's in a lot more places than we think it is, and it's becoming more and more prevalent. It's just a warning. It's just to tell people, hey, there could be people on the side of the road here, or there's something special going on. And I think something special going on is a good way to stop people from doing shortcuts.
Yeah, I'm Donna and I are members of the ad hoc committee. And it's tough because that's the standard MO is to put the double line down. And I wish we had a little bit more time, to be able to further do a little more due diligence on both sides. Jeff, we do line striping every year, right? I mean, it's a yes, no.
Yes.
Okay. We don't need you. And it could be a compromise, and that is the idea of not doing it this year and just seeing how things go for 1 year. And when we do our line striping in 2024, if it needs it, just trying to find a medium, a happy point. So I wouldn't argue with that as an idea too.
It would be interesting to me. So line striping is just when you talk about what people do with roads. Line striping is the common answer, right? This is what everyone does. You pave a road, you put the line striping down, and there's I don't know, I want to say common sense, but that's not necessarily the right word. But there's this rule of thumb that once you put that separator in, people tend to do two things: stay in their lane so they don't drift into the center lines, which was what we saw in Gypsy Hill. And two, they slow down because they're in a narrower funnel, right? They don't have this wide road anymore. They have half this road. I'm not going to say anything about this study the two studies that you're citing. Because there's also a lot of other mitigating factors, right? So in this case, again, I'm not a road engineer. I'm sort of speaking off the top of my head. This road is already a shortcut road. Like it already exists that way. And so, and I don't know how many, I really don't know how many out of towners discover this road on their own and then say, well, there's no, and then avoid it because there's no double line. So I'm not sure if like people would choose to use that road, whether there's a double line or not. So, I hadn't even considered like, let's just see what happens for a year because it's, but the issue that we have in the past with Gypsy Hill, and I'm using that as the example, is that is a through road that has a lot more population density than Old Schoolhouse. It's shorter than Old Schoolhouse by a margin, but it's much more population dense, and those folks cannot leave their house and walk along Gypsy Hill Road, right? It is very difficult to do that very safely because of the speed. And I don't know, maybe in hindsight, doing a study, what happens before and after we've double line striped. But it seems to me driving on it, I mean, psychology, but I feel safer now having that line striping. I don't feel like I'm flying as much, just because I'm in that, not that I speed anyway, but there's that sense that I'm on the right side of the road. The cars coming on against me are going to be on their right side of the road. So my concern is that we don't do any line striping. We're creating a hazardous condition for drivers, right? We might not be creating a hazardous condition for pedestrians on that road, but I think maybe we might be making it less safe for drivers on that road.
Can I just comment? Because I think you didn't bring it up, Chuck, but the report from London, if you read it, they talk about the reason they thought it worked is because it introduces chaos and confusion to the drivers. So because they're confused, they slow down. I personally am not going to support an initiative that they believe works because it creates confusion. I don't want confusion. I'm not the best driver in the world. It's just the way I'm made. I want as much help as I can get to not screw something up for somebody else or for myself. And also, David, you made a comment about you're not a road engineer, and I grant that. But if you look in our books, we have feedback from a road engineer, and that's Ron Reagan, and we have feedback from state police, and they weren't confused or wishy-washy. They were very clear. They recommend the double stripe road. Can you be surprised? Can you imagine what my position is? I firmly believe in us double striping these roads, particularly Old Schoolhouse Road. But I think we should do it for all roads that meet the conditions that PennDOT lays out. I know there has to be a certain width and all that good stuff. But.
I'm usually very opinionated or decisive, but reading what I have, and I'm leaning towards, just to make it quick, leaning towards double line. But I don't understand. What is the urgency? Is there an urgency right now? I don't know. Can we stripe? Can we discuss more or research more? I mean, can we stripe in September?
The thing that we face is scheduling. The longer we wait, the further we get pushed out.
So I think the point is that there is no imminent need to do anything. It's not like paving.
It's already paved.
It's not like paving where you shut the road down. Right. You can.
Right.
Usually the scheduling, the issue would be we're paving 3 miles or we're painting 3 miles of road. And if we only do 2, it's going to be more expensive per mile, which I don't think is the case. Right.
No, but what I was trying to get at is if you don't make a decision until September, I'm just picking that as an arbitrary month.
Right.
If we don't say in September, yes, we're doing it until September, whatever the third Wednesday is, it's going to be pushed off. We got leaves coming down. We have the school buses. So it's just something.
Why wouldn't we do it? I don't understand why wouldn't we do these roads?
So I guess my comment is, I guess I'm in favor of the line striping as well. But the comment that I was thinking is what makes it kind of strange would be this would be the only road. So for like adding the different traffic calming method with the dash lines, that's a good idea if the population already understands what that means. And my fear is it will drive traffic to the middle of the road. So if you put 5, you said 5 feet, but it could be 2 feet or whatever it is. All of a sudden schoolhouse is narrow. That already narrow road, the traffic's going to go right to the middle with any lines that are on the sides. So I'm just concerned, like, what's is it because the residents on Old Schoolhouse Road, like, what are the residents saying? Are they saying, like, how many residents do we have on Old Schoolhouse?
15.
50. I mean, are they saying don't line stripe it? Because you're mentioning the residents have these issues. Are they?
I can talk to 4 of them right now.
Yeah.
Virgil J, Mr. Paisley, Pleasant Hill,
Yeah.
and I can't remember Miss Miller with the schoolhouse. They all took the initiative and asked me, "What are you line striping?"
Okay, so they want line striping.
They asked them about it. I said, "Do you like line striping? Would you like to see it
Yeah.
not occur? What are your thoughts?"
Yeah.
And all of them said that they would like to have the double.
Okay, so at least the 4 of the 15 residents that you talked to are saying, let's line stripe this. What about I don't know if you've talked to the residents on Gypsy Hill since we've repaved and line striped, or are they, this doesn't mean anything, but I haven't heard, usually they're a very vocal group of folks and I haven't heard much from them since we've worked on that road.
I haven't heard anything, Dave, and I think there's a combination of things that help, not only the line striping, but also the signage that we put up for that curve there.
Yeah.
Because we were getting a number of accidents through that curve, through rain events and even minor snow events.
Yeah.
People just weren't slowing down.
So, I think we heard the 3-2 vote on the ad hoc committee. We heard the reasons for not line striping. What were the 2? It was a pretty close vote. What were the 2?
Yeah,
Okay. I didn't know that they were the ones.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the arguments, so the arguments are just the evidence that's generated, the history of road improvements when you line stripe. Like the driver behavior becomes generally better. Speed is one thing, but driver behavior on those roads become better, particularly roads like, and this is not to speak about pedestrians. This has nothing to do with pedestrian traffic on that road. It's a narrow country road. It is none of us in this room want that to be a shortcut road, but it is what it is. It's just like Gypsy Hill. It has become a shortcut road, whether we want it to or not. And when you have these narrow roads, people generally drive to the center, right? And you have not great sight lines on that road anyway. So it's keeping the cars separated, and I'm thinking mostly on motor vehicle safety, people driving on both ways. So I understand what you're saying. The folks on that road have a right to feel safe. But I think having cars staying in their lane, and what we understand from our traffic safety professionals is when you line stripe, you narrow the channel that the cars are driving on, and people tend to slow down. I know that there's that one study says otherwise.
Well,
but this isn't London. This isn't a new road. This is, so
what the studies state is that a narrower lane decreases speed.
Yes.
Not lines down the middle. So we didn't change the width of the road.
Yeah, again,
So I'm just saying that what they're quoting as being a truth, there's a disconnect between narrower lanes and adding yellow. No one's ever done a study that says adding double lines down the middle reduces speed that we can find. We cannot find that anywhere. So that's, so that I know about other roads, are you thinking about putting double yellows down the middle of development roads?
So like inside a housing development?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
No. But I think that so that would be something. I mean, you can argue back and forth whether Old Schoolhouse Road is a development road. I don't consider it a development road. I consider it it's a shortcut road. I get it. I understand what you're
That's
saying.
where we're trying to come from is like,
Yeah, it's
can we somehow make that a development road for those people?
the only way you could say that is, no through traffic. Like it's kind of like it's like the horses out of the barn,
Yeah.
because I know the residents and I feel for the residents on Gypsy Hill. They come and say, look, people fly down this road, they use it as a shortcut. There's plenty of other opportunities. Why do our road have to be a shortcut? And it's like, well, this is sometimes what happens when you have a road that's connecting two major throughways, right? Unless you just make, and I don't even think we can do that. It's just
We
say
can't
this
do
is not a
signage
through.
that says no through road.
Yeah, not a through road. I don't even know if we're allowed to do that.
Yeah.
So,
That'd be,
and I do have a history of saying we're going to do something we're not allowed to do. But I don't, but in my mind, that would be the option, right? Like, we're just going to make this road a non-throughway only for local traffic, right? Would be the safest thing to do.
Is the road entirely within your township?
Yes.
Yeah,
And it's a township road?
Yes.
yes.
I think there's isn't there ambulance in the state? I thought there was a whole bunch of, remember we talked.
You
about
can always make exceptions for ambulances.
I mean,
and stuff like that.
could you put in, if we are like guys saying, no through fare or whatever the wording is. And I don't think we can do this because I think when John and I were on the board a few years back, the idea of putting like on
That's a
state
good idea.
roads, 841, there's little rumble things in the middle where the yellow lines are. So people don't cross over, but I think that is only allowed by PennDOT.
Wait a minute. Well, even on a fully, so like both like Gypsy Hill and Old Schoolhouse are fully within township. That's our road.
Yeah, I understand, but can we, to help so that people stay in their lanes, if you drive 841 north, they have those rumble strips right in the middle where the double lines that
They cut the horizontal lines.
Right,
Yeah.
could we do that if we wanted to on, are we allowed to do that on a state road, township road
Oh, put rumble strips on. Where would we put them, in the center?
in the center? So when people cross over,
They know they're crossing over.
right.
I don't know.
I don't know if that's
But
working.
I think that.
It's about going too fast.
Right.
Mhm.
I
So I think, I mean, I think just to cut to the, I think the board wants to do the double line striping. I mean, I think doing something rather than nothing, but I like the idea of exploring this, what our options are for making roads not non-through roads. And
Where I have seen it in second-class townships, where it has been effective, I've never seen a challenge, is where there is a concern about safety during particular periods of time.
right,
And ordinances have been crafted and passed and signage installed that allows through traffic for particular periods of time, but not others, because there is a safety concern.
hmm
But that would require some sort of a study, because we all know that your road system and maintenance and development of your road system is one of the exclusions in the code from your immunity protection. So you may want to think that through as well in considering the recommendation that was made.
Yeah, because we thought, and again, I'm going back. I'm talking about Gypsy Hill a lot because it's the exact same problem, same problem. And we had a number of creative ideas. Do we put speed tables in? Do we make it a one-way road? Lots of different options, and none of them are really attractive. Primarily because of emergency access, right? That's really the major issue is, I think most people would get used to the extra 15 seconds, 30 seconds to go right down the road to the next cross street. People don't like speed tables. People don't like one-way streets, particularly for pedestrians, because if you make one-way streets, it just turns into a free for all. They just fly down those. So I'm not opposed to just at least exploring this idea of, making roads non-through roads for local traffic only. It shouldn't impact residents who live on the road because they live on the road. I have a lot of questions on how that would be done, but I think that's a good option.
Yeah.
Well, that's the question, is how do you enforce it? But here's the thing, and this kind of goes back to your comment, Chuck. line striping might be a signal not to use this road. But a sign that says not a through road is definitely a very explicit symbol that says, hey, out of town person who's going to fly down this road, this is not for you. This is for the people who live on that road. I mean, I would think that's a much bigger signal than line striping.
And
But-
people, like we said today, people won't understand what the dotted lines on the side are.
So-
It's not consistent with anything else.
Yeah, so that was like, that was the thing that was bouncing around in my head was, your mic's not on, was like, all of these ideas are great if they're consistent throughout the township. Like, so I like that idea of having those, that 5 foot wide dotted.
Everywhere? That'd be awesome.
We're not going to do that, Chuck. We can't. But but everyone understood what that meant. People, you know what I mean? But all of a sudden you get to that road, and to Donna's point, it's like, okay, what am I doing here with these these lines? Do I ride in the middle? Do I, so anyway. So would the board be opposed to at least having some folks explore this concept of making some of these roads non-through roads and have it be local traffic only?
So I'm not in favor, but it doesn't stop us from doing it.
I mean, we're just looking at what this means and what our opportunities are and what our options are.
So I'm not in favor of it, but like I'm
Not in favor of making these.
No, I
cross
think
streets
it's a
roads.
bad idea.
Okay.
Only 1 to 5. Oh, okay, yeah, so I think my position's clear. I'm not in favor of it.
Would we be interested in at least looking at options?
I wouldn't mind looking at options, but I don't know if I'm in favor of.
That's right. I think that's why we look
Yeah,
at options.
it's another learning opportunity.
Yeah, I'm not asking for decisions
Yeah.
today. I might,
No.
your mind might get changed. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think we should make it a toll road.
Not a bad idea. That'll, you know what, pay for MS4.
Yeah.
Every.
I'm not opposed to doing research. I don't think we'll learn anything coming out of it, but we may be surprised.
Let's just take a look at some options. Take a look. There's no harm in it. All right. Thanks. Thank you, Chuck. I like that suggestion. Not that everyone else.
So just so I won't let this go. Can we give Jeff the okay to stripe the roads that were paved?
Or should we vote?
I mean.
Well, I mean, I think we're not.
Wait,
we're-
not our heads or do something to.
So my point of view is that's been our policy. We're just not deviating from our policy.
Okay, so he has what he needs then. Okay, great.
But yeah, the only add to that is that let's take a look at, maybe there's some townships who've done that. And we can talk about what the outcomes were.
I can put that out to the manager's email chain
Yeah, that'd be
and
great.
see.
Just take a look at it.
Yep.
I mean, we're not making any decisions yet. We're just talking.
I love Gypsy Hill. It's my take, the shortcut.
See, you're part of the problem.
No, I don't speed.
I don't want to, Donna doesn't want to slow down for anything. All right. All right. Thank you, Chuck. I appreciate it. All right. So we are now on to our zoning officer's report here.
Okay. All right, so, okay, I get to read it. All right, so this report was compiled by the zoning officer, includes the number of permits processed for the month of June. In the month of June, we had 15 permits were issued, $11,535.72 in permit fees, 0 in miscellaneous fees, 0 in recreational fees, recreation and open space fees, and 0 in impact fees were collected. 11 inspections were performed, and there's no motion with this. I'm going to do the next one too. Okay, so let me just, great work is being done on the Franklin Fall Festival, and I'm hoping Stefan can give us an update.
Sure, yeah. Thank you, Donna. And if I miss anything, we have Jeff and Stacy, which I'll ask them to chime in because they are really carrying a lot of the ball here. So a big kudos to their efforts. Just a quick update. As of last month, we had 0 contributions from anybody. But the date was June 15th, so that we asked for contributions from our partners being businesses. And we have now $1,750. Correct me if I'm wrong, Stacy. And we also have a few that I think are on the come by the end of the month. So I'll just mention them. Hung Wing as it was kindly donated. Goodwin Refrigerator, Arrow, Campbellsville Methodist, Eastern Machine, Panoni. We're waiting to hear from a few other of our friends. We also have gotten donations from either a discount or donations from in-kind donations, for example, from Brandywine Septic, Trash Tech, Hers, Wawa, Tasty Cake. Lowe's donated a grill. We got a gift card from Giant. So it's shaping up pretty good because I think we're going to meet next Thursday at 2:00, I believe. And we're now at the point where we'll have all our donations. I think a realistic number is around $2,500, give or take. And I did forget one donation, Daddy-O's. We have Guy Swift who will be on the grill. We have two other people that are, providing food, including Daddy-O's and Casa Taya. We'll have Tri-State Bird Rescue coming up, West Grove Library, as we heard. 4 different groups will be setting up a table within our township, which is the Franklin Township ourselves, the HARB, FSA, and the Pro. Some art people. So it's shaping up nicely. Wagon rides. The more money we collect, once we get together next week, we'll be able to figure out what additional activities we can provide. A moon bounce is one thing we're very, very, very likely going to do. What's a pumpkin chunkin type thing? Possibly face painting. All depends on the amount of money that we can raise. And then once next week, we'll be figuring out how to honor our end of the obligation with regards to the contributions, putting banners together with our company sponsors, as well as really starting to kick in the marketing so that we get a lot of people. So Jeff has set up a Facebook page for this. We're looking at doing yard signs, reaching out to the local press so we can get an article in the local paper. So any ideas you might have, they're all welcomed. Stacy, Jeff, doing a great job. What am I missing?
I just want to give a huge shout out to everyone who has donated, all of our sponsors. Amazing. We're so happy to have you. We are still looking for vendors that would be interested in coming and selling any of their arts and crafts. That's something that we believe will be a fun activity for our residents. So.
And I thank you. And I apologize, Bob. Bob Maxis will be there and we'll be performing with the band. And so that'll be a lot of fun. I forgot. Sorry about that. Live music. Okay.
All right, so it's time for Parks, Recs and Open Space report. I don't know who's
online to, I think if you just
Paul.
hit that little sentence right next to it,
This Paul, I was going to speak this month
it
for
should give you
Andrew.
everybody. Okay, so
it's
Paul,
Paul.
are you going to be giving the report? There he is.
Can you hear me?
We can hear him.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we couldn't hear Melissa.
Yeah, something's wrong. I'm talking.
I can't hear Paul either.
Yeah, Jeff, Melissa said that other people online can hear her and they can hear Paul, but no one here can hear any of them.
So there's something wrong with our speakers. So if everyone can hear them, we can't hear them. So there's something
exactly
wrong.
right, yeah.
Yeah. So take a look at what's the output on that.
So
That's-
what should we do?
That's the speaker. Yeah. And try that, Paul.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, we were hearing Melissa before and online, but I guess
We had the wrong speaker selected for the,
okay.
so now we're good. All right, you're on, Paul.
Okay, I'll give the update this month, Andrea, on behalf of Andrea for the Pro Committee. I think you guys have a printout in your books there. The first update was we had had canceled our July meeting because it fell on the first Wednesday, which was right after the 4th of July, and a lot of people were on vacation, so we just canceled it. But after your recent meeting with all the hunting discussions, you asked us to comment on a few things. So we held a impromptu meeting there on the 12th of July. So, some people commented that we were switching our meetings, but it's because we had canceled it and we rescheduled the meeting at your request. So we did hold it and record it and all that stuff. The first thing we learned was Jeff informed us that your solicitor said that you had directed us to talk about the referendum for hunting in Crossing Park, and that the solicitor says that we cannot have a referendum on that topic. So we dropped the topic and did not have any discussions on it. So
So Paul, I don't know if you have further comment on that, but we have Guy here. He was going to talk about how that came about. So I don't know if now would be a good time. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I don't know if now would be a good time to talk about that.
Sure, that was the end of my comment, that we just didn't discuss it because we were told it wasn't allowed. So
I'll start it off and then I'll just hand it over to Guy. So I made the suggestion, hey, let's do this, and a few days later afterwards we got an email from Lamb saying, yeah, you can't do that. We have a handbook called the Referendum Handbook, and what it does is it outlines what you can have a referendum on. And it's kind of like the second class township code book. If it's not in there, it means you can't do it. So the General Assembly makes rulings on what you can and cannot have a referendum on. Hunting does not make the list. If we wanted to expand our borders or merge with another township or raise taxes for open space, that can be done as via referendum. Hunting cannot. And the other piece, which is not quite applicable here, is any non-binding referendum can't be done. So I can't have a referendum just to find public opinion, right? So would you like the board to explore this? Right? You can't ask those kinds of questions. So I asked some specific questions, and I don't know if Guy, if you want to just comment on the process and maybe specifically why we can't do that.
Yeah, sure. And I think you outlined it fairly well. The state law permits certain types of local government referenda, and they are conducted through a fairly prescribed method, and they're listed and summarized in this referendum handbook. And it's funny, I was listening to the gentleman talk about your library, and it triggered something in my head, and I was just flipping through the research materials. And if you had wanted to put a referendum forward on taxing for the benefit of the library, you could do that, because it's an authorized referenda. Advisory referendas are not permitted, and there is no specific provision that permits a referenda to gather information from your constituents on hunting. So when the discussion occurred last month, we reported back to our folks and we sat down and said, this sounds great in concept, but we got to make sure that it's lawful. And so we took a look at it, and it is not lawful. And if you were to try it, the courts would prevent you from doing it. So it's not as if it would not create some attention. So the recommendation, of course, is to not use that program as a way to determine what your constituents wish to do about the hunting in your township.
So I have a general question. How does one expand what you can have a referendum on? So I'm assuming that all of these items didn't just get born into existence. How do you challenge that and say, hey, I want this?
Is John Lawrence your representative?
Mm-hmm.
So it would start with an elected official who would take a thought or some sort of an initiative to his to the legislature, and
Yeah.
they would begin to craft a bill, and then at some point it would gather some steam or not.
And it would be applied statewide.
And it would be applied across the Commonwealth to particular local agencies like yours. It could be, it would most likely apply to townships, not school districts, but that sort of thing. That's how you would do it.
So this isn't a write out an application and 3 weeks later you get a decision. This is something that's a major change that takes time.
Correct. You'd have to look at the legislative calendar. You'd have to see what bills, what acts are moving through, and you'd have to catch that wave.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So Paul, this is your time as a pro. I don't know if you have any questions that you'd like to ask before we move on to the next subject.
No questions. I will make a comment though. In the last meeting, Dave, you said something about getting public opinion on the topic, and it came to me later that twice we've surveyed the public for the comprehensive plan committee, and hunting was a question on there. So maybe you might dig into that data and look at it yourself and see what that was. But that's just something that came to me later.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right.
you.
So my next update is it says Crossing Park, but actually the first item was for Bamshire. I've been saying for months we need a machine in there to do some trail grooming, where two places where a tree toppled over and took out the trail, and it's very slippery and steep, and some other places just for grading, for drainage. But I haven't been able to rent one. And the Delaware Trail Spinners, I was hoping to get one from them, but I keep texting the guy and don't hear back. So I don't know if he's out for the summer or what, but I'm not getting anywhere with that. So I'll keep pestering them to try to get the one from Delaware.
I think we just started to do some work in there to clear out. I think the grass was about ankle to knee high or something in there. So
Yes,
I think we got
that's appreciated. I have a group of volunteers that mow maybe 75% of the trails with machinery, and the section you're talking about has to be done by hand. And I appreciate you guys doing that, because I see a lot of people in there, and just like Natural Lands Trust comments, their primary mission is the user experience. And if you have somebody go in there just one time and they have to whack their way through stickers and weeds, they're not coming back. They'll give up on the trail experience. So it's important to keep them clear so people can easily walk the trail. So I appreciate you doing that.
Great. No, thank you.
So the next topic is that we've discussed we need stone around the trees planted in Crossing Park, and a few people spoke up at the meeting to volunteer to do that. So hopefully they'll get those the stone mulch around the tree tubes to prevent voles from nesting in there. The next topic is maps at Crossing Park and Franklin Preserve. We've been speaking of this for years. It wasn't a priority because we were adding trails, and now that the trails are all in, that it would be a great time to put in some signboards like you see at most big parks, where you have a "You Are Here" sign on a poster at the head of the trail, and we'd put probably 3 roughly at each parking lot, and say where you are, and then some trail signage on the trails to say directionally which way to go. So that's a project that's been revised thanks to the request of a resident.
Excellent. So, and I think when you talk about trail signs on the trails, you're talking about those posts with, red trail, green trail. We're not talking just
mainly
posts.
Mainly at intersections, so
Right.
that you know which, yes.
So you know which loop you're on or whatever.
Right.
Okay, thanks.
And that has to be worked out if it's a color system or a named system or number, whatever. We haven't worked through that.
And Paul, that's for the trails in Bamshire and Crossing, right?
No, Bamshire is already labeled
done?
with
Okay.
colors. Yeah, it's done. There's nothing needed there.
Just Crossing, not the bike trail, not like a bike trail, the ones that go through like Franklin or.
Yeah, those whatever trails are in Crossing and Franklin need to be labeled and a map.
So is Franklin just a bike trail, or is that their walking trail? Do they need to be marked?
They're all everything. Yeah, people walk them. Horses can ride them, whatever. We don't limit the trail use except for we don't want motorized vehicles on them. Yeah, I mean, I personally walk the trails in Franklin. I wouldn't say it's just for bikes.
I think and I don't think we're talking about, it's just at intersections. Like here, you go that way, that's green loop,
Okay.
that's red loop. It's
The next item is, we mentioned this the last time, but we discussed it in our meeting, which was connecting the lower parking lots so that we utilize more of the loop. People are skipping the whole lower section by the lower pavilion. They end up walking on the road because our current trail, the one that was original to the park, just dives into the woods and kind of stops in a wet, muddy area. So we want to pave that last little section to connect the two lower lots. And the path forward was, we need to know what that would cost. So it would actually be replacing a trail. It's not adding a trail. It's rerouting it, abandoning the old one and paving it and making it away from that wetland area so that people with their white tennis shoes and dogs can just cut through the woods and use more of the trails by the pavilion.
Paul, can you bring up Crossland Park map just to show the few of us who don't know where you mean, please?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful probably. I think I'm looking through my email now, see if I can find it. It's a short run. It's not a very long trail. It's right through that wedge or the peninsula of forest, I think.
Yeah, it's we measured it on Chesco Views. I don't remember, like 600 feet or something, but that's straight. And of course the trail wouldn't be straight.
So one of the things that we do is generate via the road program a lot of millings. Would millings also solve that problem?
I think millings could be helpful, but I would put asphalt on top of it so that it's a real walkable trail. And my intention was to contact, almost all the trails in Goddard Park are paved. There's some in the woods that aren't, but the majority of the ones you see people walking on. So my intention was to call them and ask them what they pay per foot or, whatever, per yard for paving, so I could get a cost estimate. Jeff, can I share?
You should be able to. I thought I did make you a co-host.
Okay, so I'm on Chesco Views, and so can you all see the park on my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, now we can. If you can make it a little bigger, I don't know if you're able to.
Yeah, I'm going to zoom in here. I just want to give you a little tour. This is the tennis courts and bathrooms up here, and the majority of people park up here. And if you watch them, they walk down this path by the tot lot, go left or right, and they walk along this trail. I'm going to try to move it. I hope my screen keeps up. And they come down to the bottom around the soccer field, around to this bottom parking lot. And then this is where the trail just dives into the woods and stops. I wasn't here when the park was built. I don't know why it stops. But what they do then is they abandon the trail and get on the road and they walk the road. So we took a field trip before our last meeting and we saw several people doing exactly that, walking the road. So when we drove by, they had to step off the road with their dog and wait for us to pass by. And so the idea is when they go down the road and they get back up on the trail here to return to the bathrooms at the top of the park, they're not using any of this lower section here. All this is not used as much as it could be. Yes, it's used, but not as much as it could be by the loop walkers. Most people walk the loop. So my thought was, where this dead ends into the woods, can you all see my cursor, by the way?
Yes, yeah, you're good. You're good, Paul.
That it would just cross the woods here and join here on this paved trail. And now you're letting them walk all this back up. Back up. So you're adding a lot of trail that already exists but not being used just by making this connector, and it keeps people off of this section of the road. So I think it would be safer for them as well.
It appears to be a large area. It looks. How long do you think that is?
600 to 800 feet, I would say, roughly.
That's not minor.
And
Paul, do you think there's any problem?
So 534 feet if it's straight, Donna. But as I said, we wouldn't make a straight trail. You have to follow the geography. So I think Jeff was right at 600 to 800 feet would be my guess.
Paul, would you see any problems with grade from going from the east to the West Meadow? Because I know that trail was in at one point and
So
there was a section of it that was mighty steep.
So there was a trail at some point that connected that.
Yes.
No, well.
Not to where you're going. It looks like it goes straight across.
There's.
Yeah, there's a bridge in there, right? So
Yeah.
I've been in it. Okay.
Let me back up a second. Oh, man, I hate Zoom. I can't see my.
Sorry, you were good. You can go right back to your old.
I can't because I can't get to it. You know what I mean? Like
Move
the
your
Zoom-
cursor over a little bit and you can be right back on Chesco views. Yeah, right there. Click
If I
that.
click it, I get the Zoom controls. Isn't that funny?
I don't know.
So I have to do this. Oh, crap. Yeah, you guys can't see the Zoom controls. They're on my screen.
Right, exactly.
All right, there we go. Now I'm back on Chesco.
We're back.
Nah, we're good.
right.
So you're talking about 600 to 800 feet. My thought here is I know that it's going from paved to unpaved, but it seems, and I'm just speaking on cost, carving out a little bit of a trail through there and then using millings would be pretty low to no cost for the township, right? Because
Right, David, maybe we start with that. Maybe we start with carving it out and putting millings down and then seeing, if we can later on pave it or something and see how it goes. But
yes, I think the only reason, because my comment would be that trail on the right there that kind of goes down into the swamp and goes to the bridge up to Paradox. On the top right there, the road I'm talking about. There's a trail that goes into the meadow in the back that connects it. So that is, that's millings, not quite millings. It's like stone, and you can walk pretty comfortably through that. You can ride your bike pretty comfortably through that. And you don't have to really worry about paving and maintaining the paving. Right. I'm just thinking in terms of, I guess I'm in agreement with you, Paul, that this would probably be something that we could take advantage of pretty cheaply with low or no cost if we just did the millings.
No, I think millings appeals to me as opposed to a paved road. Just something, I don't know, it just seems like it's over the top. But the millings, I understand you want to be able to not walk in the mud. I get that.
Yeah. Well, the idea is a lot of people, including some of the pro members, Donna, that was pretty interesting. Some of the pro members, when we walked the trail before the meeting, they were afraid to step off the pavement. Like they're like, oh, there's poison ivy.
Yeah.
And my shoes are getting dirty. And then my own neighbors that I walk with, they're afraid to let their dog get anywhere near unpaved surfaces. Like they're afraid of ticks.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I think I get you to the point that there's two kinds. These people aren't going there to hike in the woods.
Right.
They're going here to walk on this little multi-use paths.
Yeah, and you can see that in Goddard Park. When you guys drive by Goddard Park, I assume you do. You see they've got a lot of pavement, and they have 10 times more walkers than we do. So
yeah, I have two comments. One is that the peddlers are actually proposing some trails that actually hit that edge. Remember?
Mm-hmm.
So we have to overlay that onto this. And I suggest that maybe we all, like, before anything is paved in there, we have to take a walk and maybe flag it out or something, Paul.
yeah, I
So
already
we can
did
take a
that.
walk.
I
Okay,
already did that.
it's already flagged.
Correct.
Is it physically flagged right now?
Yeah, I flagged it about 8 months ago.
Okay.
Okay.
We can take it forward.
Yeah, the board should go there and check it
Well,
out.
I would hope you let me go with you because
Oh yeah, sure. Of course.
No. I'm only kidding.
No, of course. I'm not.
But it's-
Of course you'd be there, and I think
it's
You know,
very
and I
hard to.
think-
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I think what Jim's talking about is the trails. No, they're not the trails vendors. The mountain bike group that's maintaining the majority of the trails back there. The new bike trails. They are going to, if you want to go back to that Chesco views, it's probably easier to see. I don't think they were planning on dipping into that little square area. I think they're going to right over the top. So if you kind of run your cursor along the top edge of where the meadows are,
Yeah.
keep going up, all the way to the
Up?
top. Yeah, yeah. So if you want to go up, the trail spinners are looking at right where roughly where your cursor was. You're down. Yeah, you go. Stop. So it's now it's going crazy.
Don't move your cursor, leave it right there.
Yeah. So if you move your cursor up like an inch on your screen, so like right on the edge there in the woods, they want to
Higher up.
yes, they want to move. It's a little bit higher up in there because they're going to be in the woods, but they want a trail. They want to do the trail so it goes through the woods and keeps people out of the far north where there's a lot of swamp and it's real wet, and have a trail that goes up across that top.
So yeah,
So if we do my point would be is if we do that, we want to, I think we should all just go out there and take a walk.
I thought there was something near the pavilion, like, you know where the pavilion is, to the right of it as we're looking at it. I
Could
thought
be.
they had something in the woods there too.
Yeah, it could be.
there is. And it's a little bit bothersome that the bikers are planning trails with Jim and Dave and not talking to us, because I've been planning these trails for 3 years now, and I've walked those woods every season, summer, winter, fall, so that I can see the wet areas, I can see the swamp plants, I can see in the winter's the best time because there's no growth, you can see the contours of the land. And so I would hope the pro committee trail plans would supersede their trail plans, or at least you'd ask them to work with us. So that would be my first.
Yeah, I don't see why. Yeah,
That's what we're doing.
My
We're telling you now.
Yeah, I think that's what's
Appreciate
happening
that.
here.
Appreciate that. Yeah.
And so I think that we don't. Yeah. So
well, let me
back up. There is no conflict. So I think we can work together on this, and we can talk about what we want to do. All right. So next steps on this is we will have a conversation. We'll walk down there and we'll walk it and talk about the options. We might not be able to walk through that woods, but I'd
like to show you this. Let me finish my presentation here because I don't want to run out of time and I'm going to take up the whole night. I'm sorry, I can only zoom in on this on the website. If I zoom in on the actual, it's a different version on the actual open the PDF. So here is the mess you guys are talking about. Here is the original trail. Follow my cursor. This is the original trail. Loops into a low, steep area here. And as Jeff said, it's too steep. And then it hits a wetland and then curves back up the hill, goes straight down this hill, absolutely straight down the hill to this bridge. That bridge, you have to make a hard left turn. It's not possible on a bike. That's why the bikers want to move the trail. And there's no need to bring people through the mess. So the bikers cut this little shortcut through here, but they still have to go down the steep trail. All that, the steep part here, the wetlands, and the steep part here, all should be abandoned. That's all bad trail planning. Okay. This trail is fine that comes across the bridge. It's great. This trail that goes around the contours is great. And what Jim Johnson was just saying, they want to abandon this part in the grasslands. I told Matt when he built that would be a headache to maintain all the time in the grass. So he's moving it into the woods to come down here, which I think is great. The idea of this future trail would be to follow the contour around the closest I can to here. So I think that would eliminate some of his trail. We could work together and make it one trail. I don't want to build multiples, right? The second one is in here, there's an old road called Old Post Road. It's on the 1873 map. See this straight blue line right here? That is a drainage ditch along Old Post Road. My plan was to abandon this and all this and use Old Post Road because it's built up. They use some sort of millings. Of course, it's not millings, but some sort of gravel to build up the road. So we would use that. It's great to walk on. It's perfectly straight. It's high and dry. Bring that straight out to here. Bring this little tail to make a loop and use that little bit of boardwalk, rebuild a nicer boardwalk and make the loop, and then abandon all this in the wetlands. When this trail was cut, according to Jeff, they used a little mini dozer and just scraped the land. But what happens is every time the water drains down from the park or the creek floods, our trail is a depression. It becomes a waterway and it just erodes it further and further. So it's a big mess, just needs to be abandoned. So as I said, I've studied it a long time. I've looked at it a long time. I'd appreciate some input on it. Be happy to walk you guys out there. The Old Post Road is flagged.
Yep.
And the connector between here is flagged.
Oh, I had a question regarding Old Post Road. By expanding Old Post Road, does that at all, in your opinion, this is a naive question, but does that at all increase the possibility of allowing vandalism or cars to get from the actual paved Old Post Road into this area to create vandalism?
Oh, no, sorry, no. Okay. Old Post Road does not connect this gray area right here is a property. Old Post Road is on the other end of the property. It dead ends at the person's driveway. They have a fence. There is no road, no pavement. There's no way to connect through that person. So there would be no driving. It's just a trail. There's actually nothing to do there except cut down some rose bushes. So yeah, there's no connection to the actual Old Post Road that exists today over here.
All right, thanks, Paul. So is there anything else we want to talk about on the trails before we move on to the next items from the pro?
No, that's all I wanted to present.
Okay. All right. So I think just to wrap up the trail discussion, we should set up some time for all of us to go down there and talk.
Yeah.
Happy to do that. We spent a lot of time down in there talking about different options. And I think it's probably worthwhile, if you haven't already, we'll set up some time with Matt Thompson and you, and have a discussion there about if any potential conflicts between what the two we're trying to do there. So
yeah, and you all know Matt has done great building all those trails, and I've worked with him a lot on several of them. So
yeah, I don't think there's any.
I'm happy with Matt, but I also have a focus on all users, not just bikes.
Yep, no, understood.
So here is the next topic is when we went down there to see the proposed trail, one of our members pointed out the striping. So here is the recent striping in the upper parking lot. Looks great. And if you go down to the old parking lot, you can see no stripes. It's just they've disappeared. So she was trying to park and didn't know where the spots were. Now, she made a comment, maybe we should stripe. So it was just one of our topics we brought up, and I'm just relaying that to you. We didn't make any decisions. Maybe we just find out what that would cost or something, but I don't know.
Something we might, usually when we do that is when we repave it, right?
Yeah.
So we take a look at it and say, does it need to be repaved, and maybe shelve it until it gets repaved or something.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't need repaving. It would be another 10
years. Someone's doing donuts.
Someone's doing donuts, right?
Yeah.
But it's inexpensive to paint. It's a separate contractor. When we painted we resealed the top, it was a separate contractor that striped it. It wouldn't be a lot of money, but it's not urgent.
No, but it's a good comment.
Yeah, it's a good comment.
Yeah.
So Jeff, the people that stripe the roads, do they do that? Is that two different things?
It's two different
Okay.
things.
All right.
It's just convenient, you put a nice new asphalt on and you put the.
Yeah, and if our parking lots were high use and every space was important, I would be all over it. But these aren't really filled up very often, just at soccer games, a couple times a week in the summer or fall. But other than that, it's just a few cars. Okay.
That might be a service project too. It's possible. Might need to power wash it before you do it, but we can get the right paint and probably get somebody to do a service project.
Yeah. Well, it's all three of them, Jim. I just pointed this one out, but all three of the old ones that we didn't seal coat would need striping. And the only thing that might get us in trouble is the handicap spot's not visible. I don't know how urgent the handicap spot is down here in the boonies. There's no activities here.
Yeah.
But just to be legal, we probably should have a handicap spot painted.
Okay.
Parking lot of Franklin Preserve. During your meeting, Jeff brought up he wanted to spread the millings in Franklin Preserve, and you guys asked us to talk about that. So I'm moving up to Franklin Preserve. You can see some piles of millings right here. So we just discussed it and said it would be a great idea to spread them right where they are. We agree with Jeff's plan. So we're just feeding back to you that we agree with Jeff's plan to make a small parking lot there. Yeah.
How many more, is that enough for your, Jeff, for your parking lot idea? Is that enough millings?
Talking with Ron, this would almost be a three-phase project.
Okay.
Take it small and then make it bigger if we need to. So the thought process right now is if you can see the lane there or the old, yeah, Paul's using his cursor. There would be enough millings to do that. And then Ron and I thought approximately 6 to 8 car spaces. And for our event, we can certainly do some mowing out there to expand that. But Ron was saying, Jeff, once we get into phase 2 and phase 3, if there is a phase 2 or 3, then we would have to be concerned about stormwater, but we don't need to be right now.
Okay. Yeah.
So you can see there's an access trail from right behind the dumpster, right where my cursor is, and it connects over to the main trail right here. And so to get from that parking lot, we just need to mow a little path to that existing connector over there, or straight over to the entrance driveway. I cut that myself when we had to close this area for striping and seal coating. I went out and just cut one with a weed whacker so people could walk across. Remember, we had them parking here temporarily for a week or something.
Yeah. Okay.
But it wouldn't be hard to make a connection. Okay, the next topic is picking up the tubes from the township, the used tubes from Goodwin, and putting them out there in Goodwin and wrapping them on the smaller trees as a service project. One of the members volunteered to do that. We also talked about the fall fun day and that we would have a table there to share maps of the preserves, an open space brochure, and a volunteer sign-up sheet.
Excellent.
Can I ask you a quick question on that? Because I with regards to the open space brochure, is that something that the board is familiar with and is okay, approves of having an open space brochure?
I'm assuming it's the document that we mailed out. Is that, are you talking about the same thing, Paul? The document that was put in, yeah, so it should be the material that we've already looked at.
Yeah, and we understood, Stefan, that you guys have to approve every single thing on the table. But
That's right.
Since you already mailed it out, I thought that would be okay.
Yeah, just to make sure that it's not anything that has not been approved already.
And then here's a list of future projects would be some signage in the Healing Garden, Mr. Sachs Meadow, information signage in the Healing Garden and Mr. Sachs Meadow sign. Look into putting in additional equipment in the tot lot, and the zip line was a very popular idea. And then maintenance in the Healing Garden need to continue. And then clearing a trail on the Holmesy property, other volunteer projects, and Boy Scout projects. We haven't had any Boy Scouts reach out to us lately. I don't know what's going on with the Boy Scouts. And then, of course, keeping up with tree watering, but I think we've had plenty of rain lately, so I don't think they've been watered or needed to be watered, the donated trees. All right, that's all I had. Any other questions? I would like to make a comment, though, is you guys had just mentioned an ad hoc trail committee. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I'd like to be part of that. So if you guys have a meeting, maybe I could join you or something. I have.
Well, it's not really a trail. I mean, I'm not saying no, Paul, to you. I'm just going to say it's a group that's put together with the planning commission to talk about how we can connect neighborhoods to make it somebody can walk outside their door and maybe go to another neighborhood and walk around without having to get into a car. So it's pretty high level, but tell me, I think that's how I view it, Stefan. That's what we've been talking about, right? So it's not really trails in the sense we're not building trails, we're more talking about connectivity amongst the neighborhoods.
Well, I have
Paul, can you might not stop sharing or stopping sharing your desktop? Thanks. Perfect.
So I mean, does that answer your question, Paul? Or
well, I'm aware of a lot of trails that connect neighborhoods. Some are on paper, some are built, and some are planned. So I would like to share with you what I'm aware of, including the map that's on the township website.
When do you guys meet?
So, yeah, is it the third one? I don't remember. It's a Wednesday, second Wednesday. And we do it on Zoom, right? And is it public no, it's not. Okay. Okay.
It's not a public meeting.
You don't make decisions.
We're just talking and we bring it here, right?
Oh, okay.
I mean, talk to, I don't know what the rules are, so I'm not gonna.
I don't think we have any. It's just a group of concerned people,
Yeah.
so as long as it's not 3 or more supervisors, it's just a group of people.
Yeah, so Jeff, you can send Paul the connection.
So thank you, Paul. Is there anything else on the?
Nope, that's it. Thank you.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you.
It looks like the Planning and Historic Commission have no reports today. I think Bob Magnus is here for a quick update for the Franklin Sportsman Association.
You can go to the sit down there, or you can stand up there.
Happy.
All right, perfect.
Okay, so our new year started July 1st. And so far we've weed whacked the Bannershire property, the parking lot, cut the frontage, took 2, they were called limbs, branches, but they were like almost trees in themselves down in the preserve in 2 different trails. And then on 4th of July, I think it was, Mother Nature decided to put a gate across the parking lot. And a big tree came down there. So that's been cleaned up and removed. We will get back on the tot lot as soon as this humidity goes away. I'm not going to kill anybody out there in this, so.
What you've done so far looks really, it's just so inviting, putting some colors out there. So thank you for that.
Really gets done.
Awesome.
And that's it.
All right, thank you. Nice and quick. Hey, Paul, I noticed that you just joined us. We just announced there wasn't a report from the Historic Commission. Do you have something to add?
Something I just like to mention. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Have issues with that. This about a week and a half ago, the DCNR was conducting a series of stakeholder meetings concerning the Big Elk Creek State Park. They're in the beginning of doing foundational planning for the park, and the local historical commission members were invited to come in and talk about historic resources in the park. I have no idea what other groups they're consulting with at present, and it is my understanding that there will be a meeting directed towards supervisors at some point, but I don't think that's happened yet. But I just wanted to mention that at that meeting, I provided information on the places we know about, some of which we've already updated on, the ruins that are in the park, and we're in the process of preparing a more complete report, but any ability to do that constructively is going to depend upon having the leaves fall off the trees, because the ruins in many portions of the park are very overgrown, and you can't see them even if you know where they are. And it can be difficult to move around. In addition, just so you know, I did request that with respect to history, that they consider focusing on the Mason-Dixon line and making information available to the public on the Mason-Dixon line, both in terms of its original surveying and its later symbolic importance as a division between the North and the South, and slave states and free states. Between the monuments that are located in the preserve, the White Clay Creek Preserve, and the 3 monuments that are located in the park, there are 3 mile markers, which are more simple than the elaborate markers located in the preserve. There's a real opportunity to start using the fact that these are public lands to talk about this, and it's a significant piece of history. And then the other thing I suggested was that they ought to be talking about the park's history itself, from when it was, it's years before settlement, its settlement under Penn, the subsequent development of the area's farms, and there were mills in there as well. And then through its acquisition by Willie DuPont, and then ultimately it's transferred to Strawbridge, and then it's transferred to the state. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. We did not meet. We'll be meeting in August.
All right. Thank you, Paul. All right.
Okay. Yeah, Andrew is up. I just want to introduce Andrew Tulea from Arrow Consultants to give us our MS4 update. Andrew?
Good evening. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Andrew.
All right. My name is Andrew Talea. I work for Arrow, and I have been working with the township in order to fulfill its municipal separate storm sewer system requirements. Here to give an update on where we are at with that regard. So in terms of activities that we completed from the last meeting until now, we have revised letters that we intend to send out to property owners with stormwater BMPs that require maintenance. The board provided input on what those letters should say, and some edits that we made after our initial draft was presented was removing specific enforcement language, within the letters, and also upping the days of when we will be conducting reevaluations from 30 days to 60 days. So those edits have been made within the letters. And at this point, unless the board has any other objections, our plan was to mail out those letters to responsible parties with the board's blessing. So unless there's any questions or comments, does the board have direction on whether we should send out those letters, or do we need to discuss the letter language at this point?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think we were pretty much in agreement. I mean, you have to do it, right? Because we have to get these BMPs up and running. But I think we're good.
Yeah, I think so. I don't think there's anything more that we can add to this. So
Okay, we will plan on sending those out this week.
Okay. And
so-
this was we decided what, 60 days, or instead of, it was originally 30, I think, right?
Correct.
All right.
Right, correct. So the letters reflect 60 days, and we will plan on sending those letters out this week.
All right, great. Thank you. Appreciate it.
So the next topic is we have been working for the past couple months now on getting a hold of the township's pollution reduction plan requirements for the Chesapeake Bay watershed, and getting a handle on the township's TMDL plan requirements for the Christiana River Basin watershed. At this point, we have identified a project that the township can partner in with PennDOT, the Big Elk Creek watershed project that will potentially fulfill the township's pollution reduction plan requirement, and that is specific to the Chesapeake Bay watershed. At this point, we have our draft report ready, and we can submit the informal information to DEP for their review at this point. And on the TMDL plan side, we have been working more recently to update the township's master stormwater map in order to delineate drainage areas for specific stormwater BMPs, in order to identify, based upon the BMPs that were previously proposed to be retrofitted to obtain TMDL credit, how much credit the township would get from those projects based upon Arrow's analysis. And so we have finished our initial mapping efforts in order to delineate all BMP drainage areas. And based upon the numbers that we have generated, in total, if we would retrofit all of the stormwater BMPs that were listed in the prior TMDL plan, so stormwater basins within the township, that would get us a total of 41,000 sediment reduction credits, which is, a significant amount. However, based upon the township's requirement of 382,912 sediment reduction credits, it would not even, get us, close to our restoration requirement. Also being that a majority, if not all, these are on private property, it is not, we are not confident that the township can retrofit these projects and achieve the credit that is required under the TMDL plan. Not saying that if we need to get, a few thousand pounds of sediment credit now or down the road, that it's not a viable option. But I think the summary is that based upon our analysis and mapping, the credit for those BMP retrofits is going to be minimal compared to the overall requirement.
So Andrew, can I just ask a bigger picture question? Because when we looked at this before, right, and there was a conversation about BMPs were a better way to go because a storm restoration, you have a bad storm and it's all blown up and you got to start over again. So is there a different thought? I mean, I just remember there being risk involved with storm restoration, but based on what you presented, it looks like you're positioning us, that's probably the best way to go. Can you speak to that, some of your thought process in terms of how you selected the projects and what's the best chance for success?
So yes, I can. And so I'll just kind of jump into the stream projects that we looked at. So, and just to give some background for those that might not be aware, there are a number of structural projects or alternative projects that you can implement to obtain credit for these MS4 restoration projects. It can be a basin retrofit. You can install a new basin. You can retrofit a swale. You can do stream restoration. It's really up to the municipality in terms of what projects you pick, but each project based upon its location, its drainage area will get you a defined number of credits. And so, and every project has its pros and cons. Based upon the amount of credit that the township is required to obtain, we have estimated that that stream restoration would get you your biggest bang for your buck in terms of fewest projects to meet your requirement compared to basin retrofits. Now, pros and cons. Pros of doing a basin retrofit is that typically it is quicker in terms of construction. And in terms of the maintenance, if you are maintaining one small basin compared to a stream reach, typically the basins are, because you typically have to install less biologic plantings, you obviously have to stabilize streams. In the event of a major storm event, you could make the case that stream restoration would require more maintenance to reconstruct that structure as opposed to traditional basins. But having said that, I think, but that's just one part of the cost. There's also the cost if you work with private property owners to retrofit basins, you have to get easements drafted up, and some property owners might want fair market value for that portion of the property in order to do the basin retrofit. So the biggest concern with stream restoration is, I would say, the long-term maintenance specific to major storm events. And so, obviously we try to take every site into consideration when doing the design in order to minimize long-term effects. But there is the case that in a major storm event that there could be damage to a restored stream environment, which typically entails channel stabilization and at least like a 30-foot buffer on each side of the stream reach, where within that 30-foot buffer, you would, install native deep-rooted plant species, restore wetlands. But again, that, the long-term maintenance is just one part of the equation. And in this case specifically, the amount of credit that you would obtain for stream restoration is a lot more cost effective than the amount of credit that you would obtain from a basin retrofit based upon dollars per pound.
Yeah, but your costs in the long run, I mean, if anything goes wrong, you got to go spend more money to get it back where it was. So you have to look at the overall cost. I hear what you're saying, that the initial cost to set it up may be lower, but you take that risk. I just want us to have our eyes wide open. I mean, just one more comment, I'll hand it back to you. I mean, the cost associated with this is it blew my mind. I mean, it's just, we don't have millions of dollars. We don't have, and that's what this is. We're looking at least, $1.8 million over 5 years to do what we need to do to get the credits based on the best estimates you have. I understand you did your best. You don't know exactly. But I think there's going to be a lot more discussion we're going to need to get our heads around this. Yeah, but go ahead.
Donna, can I follow up with that? What was the dollar amount? You said 1.5 roughly?
I came up with $1.7 million.
That's right, 1.8. Yeah, I did the same.
Yeah, the same. Yeah, you did it.
$1.8 million, and that's for 382,000. The long-term goal is 3829, which is 10 times, which is $18 million. So my question is, how the heck are we going to finance this? I mean, can we get rid of some of these issues by selling it to the state, the land? I mean, are we going to take a loan out for $18 million? And what are realistically, can we get grants from the state? I mean, the only way I see this working is we're going to come to a point where we're going to skimp out on our budget for this BS. Excuse me, no offense. But because the reason I say it's BS is because we're not measuring anything. The Pennsylvania PDP is not measuring anything. It's like, okay, you did this, A to B. And it's just throwing money at government bureaucracy. No offense. I know this is your job. And then at some point we're going to for stage 2, we're going to need another $1.8 million. So my question is, what are other townships doing? And maybe we have too much water ways relative to the size of our township. What are other townships doing? And do we have anything that we can do as recourse? What would you suggest from if you're putting on your accounting hat? And sorry for my tone.
No, so one, let me just say this. This is a conversation that I've worked with probably between Pennsylvania and Maryland, 20 to 30 different municipalities for this exact same purpose. And please don't take this as offensive, but this is a similar conversation that I've listened in on every single, starting back in 2018 when we first started approaching this topic. So it is not unique for the township to have those opinions about MS4 and asking how you're going to pay for these projects. As you said, the price is at best a ballpark right now between $1 and $2 million in order to meet your current 5-year requirement. And so
I think, we can talk about the project and my perspective is I made this comment earlier about it's not I can't argue with how much it costs to do this. Like, it is what it is. There's a certain amount of people that you need and you got to pay them and they got to do this thing. The problem that I have is the amount of money that we're going to be spending in perpetuity on this outstrips every other spend that this township has. So when you talk about, like we were saying, well, it doesn't look like we're going to be able to refurbish this room that we're sitting in. I forget that we're not going to have a road program, right? This is going to replace the budget item for our road program. The cost of this township is that high. And so my perspective, and it's not your position to answer, like you're helping us. You're just telling us this is what we want to do. So the conversation is really for the board. We need to figure out a creative way to deal with this because it is almost untenable. This is going to be the biggest line item we have forever. And to your point, Stefan, This is based on a theoretical value that someone in an office somewhere came up with, and it has nothing to do with Franklin Township. No one came to Franklin Township and said, look at all these streams and all this sediment. This is your load. This is a theoretical value. So, my point is to just vent my frustration, but also we need to think about how we're going to pay for this, because we don't have a line item for this that's this big. I don't think we have another line
Yeah, I
item.
mean, it's about $200,000 that Melissa has put aside for stormwater on a yearly basis. So wait, I don't want to give them the impression that we're all taken off guard, but we were looking at a much smaller amount than what, $2 million. And that's just your best estimate. You don't know, and costs go up. I mean, you can only do what you do. I mean, it's
Again, right. This is not directed at you in any way. It's just, this is the reality.
Yeah.
So I think one of the things that we need to think about is, what is the conservative approach here? How much, you don't want to go too inexpensive, because to your point, we don't want to redo work.
Yeah.
But I think we want to be very conscious about how we pick and choose our projects, look for grants where we can. I mean, I'm surprised, I'm thinking about just the townships that are surrounding us. There's, we're a small township. We've got 4,400 people. And then there's our neighbors have half that,
Yeah.
and they have even smaller tax base. And I don't know how much they're spending, but it can't be, it's got to be similar to us. I'm surprised that there isn't more townships getting together and saying, we got to fix this. This doesn't make sense. And maybe this is where it starts, right? Maybe it is where people are starting to get the sticker shock, and we need to kind of start saying, all right, maybe we got to start talking to other townships and seeing what we can do, because this cannot be maintained. We cannot sustain this.
now that a major tax increase.
I know, and that's when I'm not gonna.
I know you want to go there. I know you don't want to go there.
So it's
So what's happened in your other townships? Are they, Andrew? Are they? What are they saying?
So it's a mixed bag all across the board. We work everywhere from, suburban Philadelphia out to central Pennsylvania with different ideologies and opinions. And but I would say a majority of the municipalities that we work with, again, have had this similar conversation, and then have essentially moved forward with projects that they know that they can implement. And so, like, for example, there is another township in your in the same drainage area for this TMDL plan that was working with PennDOT on a combined project where PennDOT would actually, help pay for the project in their township. The township gets some credit, PennDOT gets credit, similar to the Big Elk Creek Watershed Project. However, based upon our discussions with that vendor in another municipality, as of 2 weeks ago, it is our understanding that PennDOT has pulled funding for their MS4 program in the southeast part of the state due to funding allocations. That is what we got from the vendor. That could be total BS. I don't know, but I do know that there are other townships that are looking for ways to meet this requirement through partnerships or going on it on their own. There actually is one township that we're working with now where we are finishing their stream design. Now, granted, their restoration requirement is only maybe 80,000 pounds of sediment reduction. But we actually have been working on a stream restoration design for them, and we actually have successfully obtained at least $500,000 at this point in grant funding through Lancaster County Clean Water Partners, the state. But that has also come with being very aggressive, working with the county government, working with DEP on looking for funding opportunities and applying for these grants as they come up. So we have actually helped municipalities get $500,000, if not more, by the time it's all said and done, to pay for these projects. We're working on another stream restoration project for another municipality that has over 300,000 pounds of sediment reduction requirements, where they are doing stream restoration in their parks on township property. to meet this requirement. There are a couple townships that have decided to do nothing and they don't prioritize it. And just from a consultant standpoint, I can't, my objective is to consult you to meet your requirement because at any point, I know that we're talking with DEP and they've been great, but at any point, your MS4 permit, the people at the top are the federal government. At any point, they could audit any municipality, and they are. And if you're not demonstrating that you're working towards meeting this goal, you could be fined.
What's the fine?
I don't know.
Cheaper?
He's doing the calculation.
I mean,
He's being paid, be careful.
Compliance is cheaper. I can tell you that. Compliance is cheaper. You can be fined every day that you're not compliant, and you'll still be required to meet these requirements.
Residents, it doesn't do anything for them.
Yeah,
You'd be concerned about a surcharge.
And then what happens? They take over the township?
Can the DEP bankrupt
Yeah.
a township? Or the, the EPA, can they bankrupt the township?
Oh, yeah, he doesn't. That's not a fair question.
But wait.
I mean, it is a good question. Yeah.
What we could do though is, can I just have this just for a second? What we could do is, I think kind of you alluded to this, Andrew, we'll talk, I know we need to have another meeting to talk about the projects, but the goal would be to put projects in, and I know we put more projects than we need and make sure that the DEP is in agreement with that. And then we start to implement. We'll have a better sense of the cost, and then we're gonna have to we're gonna have so much money budgeted. We already have $200,000. That gets us to about $1 million. And then we do what we can, and then we have, I don't know what else to do, but we can do what we can, right? But at least we're showing some effort towards the goal and in good faith that we have a plan, we're trying to implement it. And if we get to the point where we can't afford it, I don't know who we talk to. I don't know who you appeal to, but at least we have to show the due diligence, right? That we've at least tried to do it as opposed to just ignore it.
Right. And I do know that a lot of municipalities have been successful writing to their local state legislators about this topic. Especially in terms of them helping identify funding sources. The one thing that is a benefit now is that when we met with DEP 2 months ago, I think they were satisfied with where we were working towards. And they said, technically, your clock has not started yet until your permit is approved. So our plan at this point is whenever the board will give its blessing that we could at least include these projects on our TMDL plan, we could informally submit through email to DEP. If they say it looks good, then we could go through the formal process. But technically, time is on our side based upon what DEP has said because our clock has not started yet.
Will this change? Andrew, will this change at all if we ever get a change in Harrisburg?
I can't say, but I do know that. It comes from the federal government, and so depending on who's administration, it could go either way and trickle down. The state, could potentially try to fight it and change legislation if there's a change in, who controls power in the state. But honestly, I can't answer that question. I guess my answer would be potentially, but I do not, based upon conversations with the state and with the federal government, I do not believe this is something that is going to go away.
If there are other townships like us, I think we should call Brian Sachs at London Britain and find out what they're doing too, since they're similar size and they're similar waterways, I would think. But I personally would not want to be taking a leadership. I think I almost feel like we should do the bare minimum until this continues down the path, and not get in trouble with the DEP, but do enough that we're not in the penalty box. But I would not want to take a lead on this, and then all of a sudden the ball, whatever the saying is, something changes, and then we're going to change this, or we're going to start changing this. I mean, we're dealing with governments, and they don't know what they're doing, and I wouldn't mind seeing a bunch of townships get together and petition whoever we should be petitioning, like you said, our local representative, but even higher up, state senators, U.S. Senate, whatever it is, to say this is a hardship. And it's not just us, it's other townships, that this is truly a hardship.
The key is not to do it alone, to do it as a
Right.
consortium of
Yeah, no, I think
townships.
that's a good idea. I think we need to start thinking about talking to other townships, and we can start right here. Because we're all in this boat.
So. I'm doing the wrong thing. I didn't even find a push. Yeah, that's why I need lines on the road. I can't even get this right. So Andrew needs direction, right? So can we talk about coming back and maybe at a workshop meeting and talking about the projects? I don't know if you want to go into detail about the projects, because I think we need just one of five, we all have to agree as a board that somewhere along the line, we got to send something to DEP, right? They're not going to wait forever. That we need to put a plan out there and have them review it, right? I don't think this is something we sit on for a year. I think we have several months to do this. And sorry.
No, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. But no, I think DEP was that was the best case scenario meeting we had with them, where they're like, hey, we get it. We know you changed engineers. It seems like you guys are heading the right direction. Keep us updated. And we have. We just talked with Ian Quinling today of DEP Southeast about the credits that we want to achieve with these stream projects. And so we're in contact with them. At some point, they are going to expect that we submit something. I don't know that they'll come knocking in the next few weeks. But yeah, and I think based upon the meeting we had with them, they acknowledged that while we were behind, they were willing to give us some time to get our stuff together and move forward. So I've not gotten any indication that they're expecting a report this week or next week. But again, right now, really what we have to do is identify projects where we could potentially meet the requirement. And if we need to swap in new projects because, hey, we found a property owner that says, hey, they can work with us, we can do that. But there's no indication that we have a hard deadline at this point to get something in.
So I think, I mean, I like the idea of having this on a workshop meeting discussion, because I think we should spend some time to actually do this and go through it when we're all fresh and have more time to devote to it. But to answer to your comment about at least having those projects identified, would this list that we have now that you've supplied be sufficient to say, hey, DEP, looks like we have at least a preliminary list of projects. We did an inventory and we know when we want to execute, we at least have these programs in place, or do we need to do more?
I think we have enough to present to DEP what our requirement is, what we think we can include those BMPs as just backups that we previously proposed, but it doesn't hurt to include as many projects as possible just to appease DEP. But for our permit to be formally approved, we'll need to submit we'll need to advertise it for 30 days and then go through the public comment process and then submit to DEP for formal approval. But yes, I would say we have enough now to present a informal submission to them.
All right, great. Thank you. All right. Do we have anything else for Andrew? Okay.
No, just one more comment. I mean, a big part of it is the cost, right? So if the cost, because if you look at the BMPs, those costs are really off the wall. I mean, we were looking at $4, and I know these are all estimates. It's just what you can do. The stream restorations were about $4 a ton, whereas anything to do with the BMPs were $12, $17, $23, $40. So I think if we can get, even if we have the cost, that actually puts it in a more reasonable.
Right.
If we went from 1.7 million, I know it's not great, but if we went from $1.7 million to $800,000, we could swing that.
Yes.
Yeah, we could swing that.
One thing I do want to clarify, and I was talking with Jeff about this earlier. So in my memo that I supplied last Thursday, we were still in contact with DEP. But based upon Thursday to today, DEP, not to keep rambling, there's different methodologies you can use to figure out how much credit you'll get for projects. Based upon the map shed approach that we spoke with DEP about just this week, they approve of our approach based upon the information we provided so far. So what that means is, instead of using the 44 feet, 44 pounds per linear foot estimate that I included in the memo, we're confident that we can actually bump that up to 115 pounds a foot. So I think that, looking at that table I provided, and I have an updated table now, like, for example, we're listing that one project at the park to get, but just based upon how much streams there, potentially we could have got upwards of 193,000 pounds of sediment. Based upon the updated multiplier of 115 pounds a linear foot, potentially there's 500,000 pounds of sediment at that park. And based upon the estimate of just linear footage for cost, I think the estimated dollar per pound goes from $4.55 down to about $1.74,
which makes more sense. So what it sounds like to me is that we need to do a little bit more work optimizing this proposal. Right. So if you're going from $4 down to $1. Yeah, if we can get that right, then all of a sudden we're back in the ballpark again.
We can work it. We can, like I said, we have $200,000. We can do 800,000.
So it looks like this looks like we can do a little bit more work there. So that's great. So do we have anything else for Andrew? All right. So I think what we might want to do is put this, if you're available, Andrew, put this on the next workshop meeting agenda, and we'll just probably have this unless there's something,
sure,
and then we'll just kind of go through the projects and some more of the details. So thank you.
Dave, is the reason for this in the workshop for just us, or should we try to get a hold of the other townships too at this, or not yet?
I'm not sure. Well, I'm not sure. I think we need to
first.
figure out where
Yeah,
we're at, and then we can start talking about having a separate discussion with the other townships. Guy?
Yeah, if I could ask Andrew a question. Andrew, I think Amanda was copied on the email from John Kasich of RES to me, and he and I evidently have worked together in some redevelopment work in Coatesville, and he's happy to come to Westchester and put together a little meeting between whomever is interested in attending. I did speak with Mr. Eastburn, who was more than happy to participate in that meeting, and that might be a good way to find out what PennDOT in general is doing. He indicated to me that he was going to ping Daryl at PennDOT to see where the Franklin MOU stands, and he's a pretty serious guy. And if you're interested, if I set something up with him, I'll shoot you and or Amanda an invite.
Sure. Yeah. We would be happy to attend.
Okay.
Excellent. Thank you, Andrew. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is the solicitor's report. The only sub bullet I have is a referendum discussion, which I think we've already had. So is there anything else that we need to talk about there? Okay. So with that, we are going to public comments. This final public comment can include comments on anything attendees may want to share. Commenters must state their name, whether they are a township resident or a taxpayer of the township. Do we have a? Yes, we do.
My name's John Auerbach. I'm a Franklin Township resident. I've got a couple of points, but I'm going to be very brief. Related to the referendum, and local government has a structure. You're a executive legislative board elected by the electorate in Franklin Township, and you're supposed to make decisions based on your own knowledge and capability. And you represent those people. So you can't go to a referendum and resolve every little issue. Through roads, a well-meaning idea, but I don't think it'll work because, and I'll tell you why. It's an advisory sign, and we have, and there'd be no enforcement. People already use that road. That's not going to change their mind about using the road. If you look at traffic signs, that have real enforcement behind them, speed limits and stop signs, they ignore those. So, a sign like that, it's well-meaning, but I think ineffective. I think the double striping road is your only element that can really slow that traffic down. Just a note on trail marking, I believe some years ago, a Boy Scout project marked all trails in Bamshire with some wooden posts and some colored. Okay, I just want to make sure you knew that. Millings on the trails, I would consult with Ron Reagan on that. I'm not sure that you can do that directly on a surface with millings. You may need fabric or some other surface prep to do that. So it's not a simple process, but it's an engineering solution. So stormwater, that's a real revelation. That's not something that has been coming on for a long, long time. I was told 10 years ago, we're going to spend $2 million over 10 years. It seems almost bigger than that now.
5 years.
I had used to attend a lot of seminars up in Westchester when I was on the Cato board, and we would get these engineers come in there and talk about this stuff. And there was even one guy that, and a couple of them talked about a stormwater tax based on impervious surface that individual property owners had. He already had an Excel spreadsheet all laid out for his township and how much each people would have to pay. So that's what's in their mind, a stormwater tax. The solution is a political solution. Change the rules. Change the rules. Because this thing's going to eat you up. No further comment.
All right, thank you, John. I appreciate your input. Okay, so with that, I would like to adjourn the meeting. I'll make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting at 9:28 p.m. I'll have a second. Thank you. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
It's going to be a short meeting.
All opposed, say